understanding that it's not going to go exactly how you wanted it to go
Right.
and be okay with it.
Learning experience.
Yes, exactly.
Learning experience. That's what we're doing here. Oh my. We're learning together. So welcome to the Choose on Purpose podcast. Not sure if they'll see this video or hear the audio, but I'm Becky Plutz, your host of the Choose on Purpose podcast, where we live with intention. And this is our guest today. She's my conversation co-host. This is Taylor, and I'm going to have her introduce herself to you. If you are watching the video, you recognize that we're in the same room, right? We're not on a Zoom screen like a lot of the episodes have been with interviews and having guests on the show. So Taylor is a part of my vision expanding to be doing these podcast interviews and these opportunities to have conversations in person. And looking forward to doing this experience with her. So we're all mic'd up. We have some new technology we're working with over here, and we're just going with the flow. So there's probably going to be some fun bloopers for this.
Lord have mercy, especially if I'm involved. Yes.
Yay!
There's definitely going to probably be some bloopers.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so Taylor, go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners and share a little bit about you.
Yeah, my name is Taylor. I am, we'll just go with the basics here. I have been a hairstylist now for 10 years. It's absolutely my biggest passion is my job. I guess in regards to like what this podcast is about, a little bit about me is I've been kind of going on this like self-healing journey for now, oh goodness, 5 years, and just really trying to really open up my mind and just kind of live my limitless like lifestyle and just kind of really bring in a lot of positive things into my life. And it has been a crazy journey, a confusing journey, a hard one, but especially within the last 2 years, having like had all this in my life, I've just noticed so much improvement in my mindset, my outlook on life. And it's wonderful to be able to get to share with other people who are like that. So yeah, that's me.
You know, just a couple years of trial and error and figuring yourself out a little bit more and figuring out what you love about your industry and the things that you really like to do. And I mean, she has fabulous hair, of course. So I love that you share, you know, you've really been on this journey for a while. It's not like you just show up and you're this Taylor, right? Like we have this opportunity to really take what we've been getting as lessons and challenges. And I love that you also pointed out that it's hard.
Oh, yeah. And I think when I initially started this journey, I had no idea what it was going, like what I was doing. I just knew I had this gut feeling that something had to change in my life, like something. And I didn't know what that something was until like I really started diving deep, really sitting with myself and trying to figure out those pieces of, okay, like I know something's not right. I know this could be better, but what is it?
Right. So how did you start doing that? Or like taking a step toward this isn't it, so I know this is it. Like what would you say that was?
I think my first step was therapy, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I've always had like anxiety, you know, as a child. Me and my therapist have been able to like pinpoint back to when that all started. And I think that was my first step because I needed to really get that under control before I could even start to begin to implement anything else in my life. But once that started getting to a point where I was learning these new coping skills, you know, learning how to talk more positively to myself from like a professional, then I kind of was able to branch out on my own and, you know, do some research, look into some communities and figure things out that way. Cause otherwise it's really overwhelming. It's like, I didn't know where to start. So that was where I started and it just kind of progressed from there.
Yeah. When did you, was that 5 years ago that you started there? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really it's a journey of self-discovery.
Yep. Oh, really? It really was. I think for the longest time for me, I always have said I'm a nerd, I'm a dork, I'm all of these things. And at first I felt like I viewed that so negatively. And it
Right.
wasn't until a few years ago where I really started to reframe how I started talking to myself. And that was just like 2, 3 years ago when that started to actually finally kick in, was when I realized that, hey, that's kind of my power. Like, no, you see me on the street, no one thinks that that's who I am. Like, I know that. Like, I'm always so surprised when I'm talking about my books or the movies I love or the, series. And people are like, oh, like you're really into this stuff. Like you're kind of a nerd. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a big nerd and I love it. So it was taking those things that I once thought was negative about myself and just really owning it as my power. That makes me me.
I love that. And I hope that the listeners can pick out a story for themselves to think about, what were the things that we were maybe told when we were younger, or that really just got shown to us that was a weakness, or, something that we needed to work through and change about ourselves for someone else to like us, or for someone else to think differently about us. But really it was, us owning the fact that being ourselves, being authentically our own kind of weird, right, helps us stand out. Because when we're going with the flow of what everyone else thinks we look like and what we're supposed to act like because we look like this, then we leave out the space of who we are and just become molded to someone else's thought. And so I love the power of thinking about, like, I was owning my own weirdness to say that's my superpower, because in myself I know that I was always the too much, whatever, too loud, too talkative. Well, here we are. It's like, use those seemingly like challenging moments from the past to be really stepping stones to like help us rise up more and really step into more about who we are and take ownership of those nuances and those unique situations that we've worked through, because they've made us who we are today.
Exactly. And it's a lesson I wish I could have learned sooner.
You're so young still.
I know. I act like I'm so old, but I feel like
wisdom.
Wisdom. Turning 30 was one of those things where for me it just freaked me out.
Did it? Okay.
But I think I've come to accept that like 30 is not what I thought it was going to look like for me. And I'm now just like, and look at everything else that has happened, and look at where you are in, your own like journey and accepting who you are and really instilling all like this positive outlook on life. Like it might not be what you pictured it to be.
Right.
But it doesn't mean it's any less incredible. Like that was a very hard reframe for me, but it's one of those things. I wish I could have held that, like learned that a little earlier so that I knew, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, especially in my teenage years, good Lord, if I would have been able to sit there and say, oh, hey, these people are calling me a dork and a nerd, like, own it.
Brush it off.
Yeah.
Right?
You take your power.
Yeah. The saying that I remember growing up was, the armor of I'm rubber, you're glue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you.
Yeah.
And like how true that is.
It is so true.
How true it really is to think about, when people are saying negative things to you and poking fun at someone or being just nasty, that it really is that we're showing them something about themselves.
Yep.
Right? Like you are a reflection, right? To me, like if I see something that irritates me, it's my problem.
Yep.
It's not yours.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. That's why I always sit there and say that people say, oh, social media is all negative and all that stuff. I think it's because people look at it from a viewpoint of jealousy versus actually, seeing something like someone posts about buying a new house and they're just like, oh, like lucky them. And it's like, well, no, they worked hard for that. They're sharing something that they're excited about. That's a good thing. Like, check yourself first. Because when you're coming from a viewpoint of jealousy, then that's when more negativity arises.
Yeah. Intention is so important to like go through our day and to really check ourselves to say, like, where is my mind when I'm having that thought? Because we have the power to change that.
Yep.
We are the ones that can decide, oh, I'm being petty. Ooh, like that was kind of nasty. Let's change that because I'm not that person. I'm better than that. I can choose a more, empowering thought for myself and for the situation that I'm in, no matter what. And like that is taking our power, and really doing something good for ourselves because we live with ourselves.
Yeah. And bouncing off that, I always say I put my thoughts on travel.
Mm.
Because like when something like negative bounces up, I'm like, whoa, wait a second.
Okay. Is that true?
Like, wait, like where am I feeling this? Why am I feeling this? Okay, what are the facts to support this feeling? And 9 times out of 10, especially when it's negative, like if it's a negative thing where I'm like being petty or something, I'm just like, there is no reason why I should be feeling like this. Like, hey, knock that out. Like,
yeah,
really reframe your mindset there.
Is that one of the coping skills that you learned in therapy is like really like stop and challenge the thought that you're having and that whole thing?
Yep, that was one of the big ones that I learned. And the nice thing about it was the way she presented it to me at first was using it with, as she called, low hanging fruit.
Okay.
So like when you're like driving on the highway and you get cut off by someone and you're like all of a sudden super angry, she's like, in those moments, she's like, pause and be like, why are you feeling that way? Like what is causing that? Do you really need to be angry in this situation? Like really going forward and being like, okay,
where was that trigger really at?
Like where was that trigger really at? Was it because I left 15 minutes late and now I'm gonna be even later? Or was it because I was just annoyed and I don't know what's going on in that person's life that's in the car that just cut me off? So just to really take those moments and do it with the small things, then it becomes easy to do it with big things.
Yeah, well, and what I hear and I've heard some scenarios on like podcasts and stuff too about that. The example of people cutting off, and I love car analogies in the podcast, right? We talk about green light moments, the rest stops, and the detours, and we're going to get into your story specifically a little bit more with that. But thinking about when someone cuts you off and you have that feeling, it's like, okay, yeah, taking personal responsibility is part of that to know, yeah, did I leave late? Then obviously I'm irritated when other people are slowing me down the road. But the way that we, would get out of that is like taking full ownership, like, if I only would have left, 5 minutes earlier, 15 minutes earlier, like could have avoided that. And I still always believe that it's on purpose. There's a reason that we're delayed. There's a reason that's happening. Even if we never figure out what that is, it's all gonna work out just fine. So that's one of the ways that I support myself. Like when I feel like things are chaotic, is just really reminding myself, like, there's a reason for this. There's a reason that my youngest wanted to stay home today. There's a reason for being late to school or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That even if I don't figure it out and like analyze the hell out of it to like know, trusting that that's what I believe.
Yeah. No, I 100%. I 100% agree with that. That's how I get through. That's the only way. Because otherwise it's like, oh, oh, this just happened. Okay. Why did this happen? One of the opportunities I've had within the last few years is I went to, I don't even know what to call it. If it's like a seminar, hairstylist, thing. And the educator there really promotes saying life happens for you, not to you. And that's like a prime example, kind of like what you're saying. Like, okay, things happen in life because it's there to either teach you a lesson or, show you something to continue your like growth.
Or give you enough pain that finally gets you to the point where you can then learn it.
Yep, exactly.
You're gonna keep getting that message.
Yep, you're gonna keep getting it, and it's life just happens for you, and that little perspective shift, like game changer. I wish I would have had that, again, so long ago, but I'm glad I have it now.
So what I love about you bringing that up too is that to get to that seminar, that workshop, that event that was obviously to better your career, right? And you received a mental shift, right? You elevated yourself as a person, not only as a stylist in someone in an industry, but yourself, because you take yourself there too. So it works out, right? So bringing that up, like that would be would you call that a green light moment? Would you call that a detour or a rest stop for you?
I would say it was a green light moment because before, like I had heard of the event before, but I never thought I was at the level like to attend something like that. That was me. And again, I was very much so talking negatively to myself and being like, no, you're not that level. You can't go to that thing. You can't attend that thing. And I just happened to be in a situation where my environment really wasn't helping me at all. So I just felt like down, defeated.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like my coworker Hannah was just like, no, come. She's like, come with me. You need to do this. I think you need this. So I would say it was definitely a green light moment because it was one of those where I'm just like, maybe this is it. Maybe this is going to help me shift something, even if it was just at that point, I was going there expecting it just to shift my business. I was not expecting the whole other side of it. That was mindset and really building a life that served me. And so it literally was the thing that was just like, okay, go.
Love that. I love that. And what I hear from that too, right, is that you had you had a guide, right? If we're thinking about a hero's journey, you had your guide. Anna was like, this is really going to support you. I see this for you. Come on, do this.
Yeah.
Like, look at this. Pay attention to this. This is something for you. And you were open, right? Because you were defeated enough to actually see that there is an opportunity for you, that you were able to, say yes to that green light. You were able to actually keep going towards the direction that you needed, which was you needed a mindset shift overall. You didn't just need to, learn how to, X your revenue and do those things that we think as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as leaders, that we're like, we need to get something that's like an ROI and like really see these results. And what I love your story about being able to see like, holy crap, I got so much more than I thought I was going for, because that's where growth mindset, right? You're like open to the opportunities, you're figuring it out, and you receive way more than you think you're going to because you put yourself in that state of, I'm not really sure what I'm completely here for, but I know that something needs to change. And 9 times out of 10, it's usually us. It all begins with us.
Oh, for sure. It was so insane. That I felt like such, like I felt so like it didn't feel alone in it, but after the first day of that, like when all the content was discussed and stuff like that, at the end of the day, I remember getting back in the car with Hannah and Stacy, and she's like, "So how was it?" And I just cried because it was the thing that I needed the most. Yeah. I'm just like, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is it. Like here's this moment. Like this is where it changes. This is how
So you knew that.
Yeah.
Like you had the moment of total awareness that this is where you were meant to be.
Yep.
And that is a green light moment.
Yep. Very much so. I would definitely say
that. That's so cool. Okay, so thinking, from there, what would you say about like a detour? So in my eyes, right, a detour, what happens on a detour? We had this plan in place. I was going this direction. I was taking this route, and there's a roadblock, a detour happens. It wasn't planned, but it was still meant for your journey. Where would you say that is in your story?
Oh, that was COVID. That was COVID back in 2020. I mean, I kicked off 2020. Divorce was finalized in January. Okay. I then moved into my apartment after living with my parents for X number of months. And literally 7 days after I moved into my apartment, the world shut down. And I had rent, I had all this stuff over my head. I was told I couldn't work anymore. And I was like, holy crap. I'm like, that was my big detour, because I was like chugging along. I had so many big goals I was planning on achieving. And then all of a sudden it was like, stand still. Total stop. But in that first month of not working, I'm going to be 100% honest. I wallowed. I literally just was like, I don't know what to do. I just fully,
let yourself feel.
I just let myself feel everything, because I felt defeated. There was that weird, like messing with your head with, they were saying, non-essential workers need to stay home. And I sat there and I'm like, because I love my job so much, I'm like, my job isn't like non-essential. Like, I'm like, I see in my chair what I do for people. I'm like,
Yeah.
in a time like this, I'm like, I'm going, like, I understand why I need to stay home, but I'm like, I don't think it's non-essential. Like, you're getting labeled by like something else saying like almost like you're not important or your path isn't important. So it really messed with me mentally. Like, I didn't move, didn't budge, didn't do hardly anything. And then I was like, okay, like, let's take this as a like actual like a pause moment here. And let's like try to redirect. So I was trying to figure out when I came back to work, what was I going to change? How was I going to do this so that in the future, if something like this came up, I was going to be better prepared for it. Like, I really started to like reevaluate areas of my life and figure out like, oh, hey, wait a second. Like, this is kind of actually a good pause reset, like a good like detour for me to take, because it allowed me to really start to figure out like, oh, I want to, have a personal life, not just be working all the time. And I found some hobbies that I really enjoyed during that time. So even though it really rattled me, it was also needed and really was, I think, the kickstart before even like if I didn't have COVID, I would never have taken that green light moment, because like those happened within a year, a year and a half of each other.
Okay.
So COVID was the start.
Okay.
I started with that detour.
Yeah.
That was the first thing.
Okay.
If that's a weird way of
no, I love that because right, like what I'm hearing is that you took that month to really sit there and go, what the hell? Like, this is an important job that I like, I'm doing something really important. It is essential. And I think that contemplation of like what we're doing, how much it matters, and not just to other people, but to you.
Yep.
Like how much passion you have for doing what you do and what you're, the way that you do it and the clients that you have and all of that, how important it is for us to believe in ourselves and what we're doing and know that it matters. Like, that's what I'm hearing. Like, right when you said, I was like, oh yeah, because the world, we all needed to know how much we matter to the collective. Like, everything that we're doing has a ripple effect. Everything that we do has a domino effect. And we get to decide, like, what are the things that we're putting our energy, time, our passion into, and how much does it really matter to us? If it really matters, then you find a way of how you can improve it and how you can make it stronger for a future that is unknown. Like, we just don't know. And we clearly didn't know what was going to happen then. And so it doesn't sound crazy to think that you were wallowing for a month to figure it out, right? I'm sure people can relate to that very much so, like figuring it out. I just had my first boudoir session on Friday in here since 2020. Like, I think my last one in a year was 2020. And that was just because I started focusing on other things. I started taking multiple detours and rest stops for myself and figuring that out. So it totally makes sense. And I love that, hearing that really was pivotal for you and taking full ownership of your craft and like what you want to bring to your clients and knowing how much it really matters what you do.
Yeah. Because that's the whole reason why I got into this industry. I loved hair. I loved that part of the industry. But the part of the industry that I think I enjoy the most is that for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you are a part of someone's day and you can entirely change their day or their outlook on themselves and make them feel beautiful, feel seen, feel heard. And it is something that, they said, I thought it was a joke when I graduated from beauty school. They're like, we should be also handing you a license like for therapy, because you're going to become like almost like a therapist to people. I see it, because sometimes I'm the only person that person in my chair has for the day. And I want to be able to let them know that, hey, you're beautiful. Like, be confident in who you are. Do you need a shoulder to cry on right now? Let me be that shoulder. Do you want to celebrate something great going on in your life? Cool. I'm here for that too. Like, it's one of the very few industries in this world where you have a license to touch, not physically, but also like mentally and emotionally, and I love that.
That's awesome. I love that for you.
Yeah.
You can just hear the passion
Yeah.
for what you do,
Yeah.
which is great. So authentic. So okay, let's talk about then like a rest stop. So to me, right, think about a rest stop when you're going on the interstate. You're like, oh, just in time. I got to the rest stop to take a pivot, get myself together, you know, and really collect myself so that I can continue stronger on my journey.
Mhm.
Where is that for you?
I would say last year. Last year was where that happened. Again, it kind of very similarly to back in 2020. At the beginning of 2023, it just like things hit like very hard, like right away. And I was just like, okay, wait a second. You know, I found myself needing to find a new living situation and trying to figure out like, you know, like I had ended a long-term relationship and I was like, okay, now what does life look like? Because I hadn't been single in
Yeah.
2.5 years. And I think it really was again, a pause to be like, okay, let's reevaluate some things, you know, and shift. Like, okay, this sucks. I'm one of those people who's like, if it sucks, it sucks. Like,
Say what it,
say what it is. Like,
Yeah.
say what it is. I said, but I'm like, however, I'm like, I really started to try to turn it inward again. I started journaling more often. I have literally post notes all over my apartment that have little affirmations on it daily. Like really, because I was chugging along, doing great, and then all of a sudden, like all that happened, and I'm like, oh, I kind of got off course for a little bit. Like this is my reset right here, and it just it's really helped, and even too within coming up on like a year of it, I've screwed up, I've messed up along this journey, but each of those like screw ups or mess ups, I'm like, it was just that little
speed bump.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It was a little speed bump. It was just something that it was like, okay, could have handled that better, but you learned.
Yeah.
So it can't be horrible because you actually did learn something from it.
Right. Yeah. It's all worth it when you can squeeze, what you needed from it out. I think it's really good.
Mhm.
So with that, right, like figuring out, what I hear is getting back to yourself.
Mhm.
I love that you're like, oh, I got off course a little bit, but it was like really that reset. It's like, get back to your core value, get back to your passions, what brings you joy, what lights you up. Because when we have that, I'll say balance, I know people don't like the word balance, but it's really a harmony that happens.
Mhm.
And balance isn't static, like it's always changing,
Yeah.
which is why I like it. But you mentioned, I can have a life outside of work and I want to do this work.
Mhm.
And I also want to have playtime.
Yeah.
I want to go have fun. I want to enjoy my life and feel like I'm living a life while I'm still working in what I love to do, and creating that harmony in your, routines and your structures. It sounds like that was something that was super, pivotal in you being able to re-engage in your life in a way that felt, fulfilling.
Yeah. And it definitely was. Because there were so many like things that I'm just like, okay, like what does Taylor of today like need? Like what is she like? What is she not like? What does she want? What fulfills her? Like I was just trying to like literally so many self conversations. Like I feel like that sounds so weird, but I do like if I sit in my thoughts, that's why I journal. There's so many of my journal things where I'm literally like, talking to myself, checking in with myself. And I think along that journey, that's how I kind of realized like, hey, like these are the things that bring you joy, and that's okay. Like not everyone's gonna like them, but that's okay too. Like you don't have to change to fit a box or fit a mold or have people like you. Like you can just be who you are. It was that further little reminder that it's like, hey, keep going, like keep walking this path.
Yeah, isn't that interesting how it kind of seems to be the same message a lot of times? It's like, again, go back to your weird, go back to your things that light you up, go back to the things that bring you joy and start from there. Because when we are in that authentic energy, then we're attracting
Mhm.
the right surrounding people to really reflect good things to us,
Yeah.
that we're making positive change in our life. We're making choices that support who we are and that we're being in that authentic space because we are being it and we can attract more of it.
And I've noticed it, like, I've noticed it mostly too, also in my, like, in the new clients I've attracted within the last year. It's like, I feel like I'm looking in the mirror sometimes because it's just like the conversation flows very easily there, very much so the same way with mindset and positivity. A lot of them are also nerds like I am, but they're also entrepreneurs and businesswomen. And
Right.
it's so crazy how quickly the shift happened when, I was putting that same energy out there, it was coming right back to me. And that's where I'm just like, okay, stay the path, stay the course. Because this is what you've always wanted.
Yeah. I just pictured like like on a road trip and you're like turn on the song and everyone's jamming out to the
Yep.
same song. Like you're on the same vibe, you're on the same level.
Yep. That's actually kind of how I picture it too.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I picture it.
Road trip of life, baby.
Yep. Yes.
Jump in the caravan. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go.
I love it. So I love to also ask like a forward question. So where do you see yourself? That was 5 years. We're talking about like your journey of the last
Yeah,
5
5
years.
years.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Oh, I feel like that's the hard one right now because this has been my challenge because I have been someone who gets so goal set and almost where I put the blinders on that actually in life I have been challenged to just pause for a little bit and just let life happen. Because there's so many times where I've tried to be like, okay, I got this thing done. Like now I got to get to the next thing, get to the next
Right.
thing. So right now I've been challenged to pause a little bit on that and just sit back. And it's hard,
Mhm.
especially because I am very goal orientated and I just am like, okay, let's get to the next thing. But I hope in like taking this little like pause, like this pause and just letting life happen and not trying to plan for the next thing, I kind of will start to appreciate what I do have a little bit more and be able to then, instead of setting goals just to be able to be like keeping myself busy, I'm setting intentional goals that are going to help further like serve the life I want to continue to build. So
Yeah.
that's kind of right now.
Yeah.
The next 5 years, there's a little bit of a question mark there because I'm like, the one thing I know for certain is that I just want to keep, exploring myself, continuing to work on my mindset and just kind of see how that goes and kind of evaluate from there and take those intentional like pauses and be like, okay, I really want to set this goal, not because I feel like I need to or because it's to make me more successful, but to just keep going.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Awesome. Well, where can everyone connect with you outside of here?
Instagram would probably be the best one. My business page, I share a lot of not only my hair work, but also a lot of like positive, like affirmations, mindset stuff on there. And it's The Undone Hair by Taylor. So that's where you can find me.
I love it. I don't even know what time it is. What time is it?
10 to 10.
Oh, it's a perfect timing. I love it. Okay, so we're gonna pause here and